it or not, AP testing actually just finished, so that's why we never made the transition. But
just good.
But hey, you know what? Everybody was locked in.
Looks good.
And, physics. So.
Looks good, doesn't it? I'm surprised because of that.
It looks really good.
Yeah. From standard definition to whatever it's outputted to.
And that's one of the. Nick mentioned the camera that he used ahead of time. This was shot on mini DV tape, correct? So pre-HD, or HD was kind of in the infancy. Definitely not at our level yet.
Yeah.
It was very expensive,
dinosaur,
and you know, but it looks great, and you know, and I think one of the interesting things, Nick, that you know, in the years since you've done this. Is that some of the projects, some of the films that are kind of from that time or a little bit later, they don't hold up as well. I've shown them the classes, and all they'll talk about is, oh God, what was this shot on? Why is it so dark? Why is it, you know, and they'll pay attention to all the things that you know, they shouldn't be paying attention to. But every time I've put this on, everyone's locked in. And the fact that it was made 20 years ago, it's not in HD, all the things that, you know, are technical things now, like, don't matter. And that's a credit to you and the story that you told. And to kind of rewind, where did the idea, because you wrote this story with a friend over the summer, right?
Yeah.
And then came into the school year ready to roll and ready to make this. Where did this come from? You know?
Well, first I gotta make this point too. This film got an A-, and rightfully so. Rightfully so, because there's a lot of things wrong with it. It's a TV film. It's not a film. We had to be creative for how we told the story. Like, there's a lot of inconsistencies. It's not color graded. The audio's hot. It's a student film, but there's a big problem we're seeing a lot these days, especially with people with social media. Is that they're doing these things because they want to be famous, or they want to be rich, or they want recognition. They're not making these things because they want to tell a story. And I think the reason, the biggest priority with this project was storytelling. And you're going to find let me just show of hands, who else is going to be pursuing media in college, or any kind of media arts, like news or like film, anyone? Okay. You're going to find when you go into, say, like news or anything, they're not too hung up on technicalities, or more worried about the story. And that's another point to drive home too about this department. This department was like an AP class. Like, by the time I'd gotten to college, I was bored. And I said that before. Like, it's just the stuff I was making at Neuqua far surpassed anything that was going on in Columbia. So, and I didn't know anything about films. So I really took the opportunity to sit back and kind of learn about the aesthetics of cinema. Because once you think you know something, you don't. And I was wet behind the ears when I got to college. I thought I knew everything, but once you get there, it's like your bubbles burst. I was taking classes at the Second City during high school. During the boot camp, and I'd go there and I'd meet friends, and we would write material, and sometimes I'd bring it back to Neuqua Media, and we kind of use it there, and it was a very collaborative effort. But it was Brad Ludens who had the idea to remake this. We were watching the original film in this the studio right here, and Brad, who was the producer for Wildcat Weekly, and we all helped each other out. We all had a good time. We were just all good collaborators, which is why I think it's kind of like the golden age of this department, because there was such a huge amount of talent, especially in this film.
The classes weren't separate.
Yeah, there's so many names in this film. But Brad said we should remake it, and we decided that we were going to do it as a mock picture, meaning how studio films are made in Hollywood. And we would shoot scenes, and I would take it home and edit it on my Gateway computer. It was we maxed. My dad he said that if I didn't drive for 2 years, he would buy me a camera with the insurance money he saved. Seems like a pretty good idea. So I got a lot of practice in. And we would edit in my bedroom. Pat Chestnut, who got a perfect score on his SAT, went to Harvard. Jeff Barnes went to Stanford. My younger sister, Megan. All these smart people. The Bearable brothers were there. All these smart people would come into my room. We would never party or do drugs. We never did any of that stuff. We'd always sit around and we would screen the scenes, and they'd give me notes, and that's how we would cut it down. The original cut of this is an hour and 15 minutes. And for reasons, technical reasons, we couldn't fit it all in one DVD-R, but also because there was a lot of fat on the steak. And because there was so much collaboration with my peers, we were able to get it down to something more concise. And I think the reason why the story is so good is because I got a lot of eyes to give me critique as to what worked and what didn't. So, I think, this is a collaborative art form, and usually the best directors are the ones that listen. If someone has a good idea on set, you need to go with it. And, I think good directors are ones who are moderators.
And kind of follow what Nick said there, and he explained it quite well. And Ms. Traut and I and Nick know a lot of the people involved in this. There were a lot of smart, invested people involved in this project that probably were not afraid to give you their advice, or feedback, or maybe this one, like there were a lot of home run hitters in this.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of Kevin Jeans, Eric Izuko, Jeff Wagner, Garcia, Keith Habersberg is in it. He has the last line in it. There's a lot of big names in this, and they were all that really helped kind of.
And I think it speaks to how you worked with people, because sometimes when people reach like a certain stature, they tend to not want to listen, and not hear others' thoughts. And I remember Nick would always bring in things, show Ms. Traut, show me, show Mr. Stanek. Just to kind of see how it breathed and felt, and you were really good with that. And even though you had a tremendous creative eye to begin with, you listened to people.
Yeah, that's big. You gotta, creative minds, whose career is taking off before whose, that's gonna come with the territory. But I'm gonna let you in a little secret. I made this movie to impress a girl. I made this movie for all the wrong reasons. I shouldn't. It's a good story, and I really focused on the story. And there's another reason why I made it. It wasn't just to impress a girl. I had something to say. There's a voice in this movie, and I'll get to that in a second. But you need to make the movies that you want to make. You don't want to be rich and have everyone hate you all the time. You want to do these things because you have something to say, and that took me a long time and a lot of schooling to kind of arrive at that, But in terms of this movie having something to say, there's a lot of, I could go on and on about the rabbit holes and all the imagery about that, but there's a reason why the First Amendment, freedom of speech, is number one. And this movie has a lot of kind of notes to that. Like, for example, Jared Mason's wardrobe is all red, white, and blue. X's wardrobe is red, white, and blue to kind of counter that. Like, the conflict is amongst the students, like the administration and like the teachers take like a very like libertarian type of feel and kind of lead up to the students, kind of like Lord of the Flies. And especially when the leader of resistance gets arrested, and in one of the hallways, you see the Constitution behind him to kind of make an irony about the infringement on civil liberties. A lot of that is happening these days. And I think the reason why this also holds up so well is because we are seeing that a lot these days with the infringements on your rights as artists and as journalists to say what you want to say. You need to hold on to that, the First Amendment. You need to keep it close to your chest because these type of liberties are under fire these days. And I think that's the enduring legacy of this movie is that freedom is fleeting, and we saw it 20 years ago, and of course it was different back then. Like there was a moral compass, but like today it's a very, very scary, and I think I would like to think that the voice in this movie kind of resonates with that. So, no.
What questions do you guys have? Yeah. What made you pick the mythological names for the antagonists?
There's a couple of them. One of the mythological names is Janus. That wasn't my idea. That was Jared Mason's idea. That's another example. We would go to Wendy's and we would hang out, and I would pitch the movie to people. I'd give the whole story, and then he'd give me a suggestion, and Jared gave me that suggestion. Cerebus, I was reading an article in high school about an Army Humvee unit in Iraq, and their unit name was Cerebus. And I thought that was very poignant as, and here's a whole other thing too, I'm gonna kind of flip the switch on. The Bureau, they're the good guys. That's the thing. They're trying to prevent you from leaving school. You're actually rooting for the bad guys. The rebels are the bad guys. That's the irony of it. It's just that we're seeing that more and more these days in America, where people are becoming radicalized and they're acting out and doing these things to make change. So Cerebus was kind of a node to that type of intimidation, the three-headed dog that garbed Hades, kind of to intimidate, so to speak.
Oh yeah. Where did you make a cameo in the movie?
There's a couple.
I think there's just two.
There's three.
Oh, there's three. Okay.
No, there's three. Yes, there's three. The first cameo, I looked very young and skinny, and had a full head of hair.
You were being drug away
In
the auditorium lobby.
being ransacked by bureau members in the opening film. I'm wearing a sweater. The second one is a plot point where Malcolm Smith looks behind his shoulder and you see me being bullied by one of the bureau members. And Smith, when he sees that, he's having a moral shift in his paradigm. Like he's deciding that he shouldn't be doing this for the money, and he should be doing it for a rebellion's sake. And the third one, I'm a bureau member. I'm over the walkie-talkie at the checkpoint, notifying them. So what's that?
You get so many people
That's another thing. CSS, clout, synergy, and most importantly, story. I was very involved in high school. 4 years of varsity speech team, theater, I was a state qualifier for group interp. And here's the twist of that. I was in the lower fourth quarter of my graduating class. I was a poor student. I was certainly smart. I was in AP classes. But all I would think about was movies. That's all I cared about. I would daydream about it all the time. When I got home from school, when I should be doing my homework, I was in my room watching Criterions or working on video stuff for this department. I already knew what I wanted to do. Like I didn't want to be a lawyer and be rich. I wanted to go to Columbia and make movies, and I had that kind of zen. So you shouldn't follow my example, because I've been wanting to do this my whole life. You should be doing what you want to do and say what you want to say. Anyone else? What's up? Yeah, what's up?
How do you think this movie would rate on Rotten Tomatoes?
Rotten Tomatoes. That's a good question. I think it'd probably get like 86 solid percent. Yeah, I think that's it. What's up, buddy?
How did you balance academics with doing this?
Oh, that's a good question too. That's a very good question. And that's another point I wanted to make. Because I made this film, I had so much trust with the administration and so much clout with the student body that it was kind of a non-verbal contract with the LT and Mr. G and Paul Vandersteen, Mr. Mendoza, Gail Darrow, who's an English teacher, that if I made this film, I would graduate.
Okay.
So basically, after it was done, they made us go around signing a document saying that we had made our prerequisites. I didn't have to sign that. My final paper for my English class, I didn't turn in and I got a B. They turned the other way. I don't think that'll ever happen again. I was very lucky and lucked out. But because I was so involved and I would do other people's video homework for them, I created so much synergy and created so much pie that everyone wanted to be involved with this. Okay, see, let me see again.
Like how were you able to like access a lot of those resources, like the gators and stuff, like maintenance vehicles and stuff?
The gators. We worked with the administration, and Lance Fuhrer gave me the key to the school, which Brian Garcia stole and never gave back.
Oh,
Miss Traut, I can't drive the tractor and he gets a key to the school. I can't go on the roof, he gets a key to the school.
Different time, Julian.
Much different time.
And go on the 20 years.
You
What synergy do you have?
guys, You guys, you don't want to top this. You want to make your own thing. And I think what I've kind of read about some of the mythology about this film is that people wanted to remake it over the years. You got to reinvent it. You got to make it your own. There's so many things that have happened. Since this was made, you have COVID, you have so many things, and like school shootings are on the rise, which is
Right,
just
seriously.
he stole the key. When we were shooting the Gator scene, the key fell out of my pocket, and he ran away with it.
Just us?
He never gave it back. And Lance Fuhrer was really mad at me for years about that. So if he hears this, I'm going to post this on the 4K scan online. So if he hears this, sorry, Lance Fuhrer. But yeah, he ran away with it. But it's okay. That's 20 years ago. So we're just kids. But
There were so many more different. It was a different world, different privileges that he was able to get. The roof thing. It wasn't too long after that where, because of that, they said, we can't be on the roof. Safety issues, and things like that. It's a different time. It's a different world we're in now. So it's
I think this is that insurance too. Like if we had someone on the roof with us watching this, we had supervisors. But administration, I don't blame them for not wanting to do this again, because if someone were to fall off, that's a huge liability.
There were like 3 or 4 of us, teacher-wise, administrator-wise, that were out back when they were doing all the Gator scenes.
Yeah.
And just the challenge of, wait, we gotta get out of the way. We gotta get out of the way. Because there were so many of us to make sure all was good. We had to.
Yeah, and those Gators kept breaking down, so we kept having to fix it. Like that was, that was coming down to the wire. And that's a good example of how people can have the best equipment, they can have Gators, they can have the roof, they can have the best camera, but if they don't have a good story and they're not creative storytellers, no one's gonna give a damn. You have to have a good story and you have to say what you want to say. That's important. Whether it be news media, whether it be film, you have to have a good story. That's paramount. What's up, kiddo?
The serious and unserious question. The serious part is, when was the initial thought that you wanted to make a film this large? And then the unserious part was the girl impressed?
Well, there was a film that came before this. There's a couple of films that came before this. And they were kind of warm-ups to this one. And they were very successful. This one just kind of was just a step above the one before that. I really just wanted to do something for the school, impress a girl, and I had a lot to say. And I already knew where I wanted to go to school, so I had the zen. And the funny thing is that the girl wasn't impressed.
Come on.
I can't say.
Oh.
I can't say. I have to.
We would know.
You wouldn't know.
You said the first lady.
20 years later.
You never.
You wouldn't know. No, she wasn't in this apartment.
Okay.
No, I don't think she was even there at the premiere.
Oh, how dare you.
In the legacy of Escape from the Valley, and also this got second place at CTEC for drama. It should have been comedy because it's funny. It's a satire. It's not. I was taking it too seriously. Sorry.
It's pretty good.
What's up, Gator?
Do you think?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, what's up?
Do you think that if this movie will take any place in your career, or did it take any place in your career?
Did you mean that it have any results?
Yeah.
When I got to Columbia, people saw it and they were intimidated. Kyle Heller, who was a big producer in Hollywood, was in my class. He was pretty intimidated when he saw this. It was intimidating for a lot of people. It was like an AP class. I spent so much time on this movie that by the time I got to school, I was bored. I didn't know anything about watching films. That's important. Once you think you know something, you don't. And that's it. My bubble got burst very quickly.
Okay, 3 questions.
Sure.
1, which speech categories did you do? 2, what theater shows were you involved in? And 3, how does it feel being back here watching this 20 years ago?
Okay. What speech categories I was in? Jared Mason and I were in humorous duet acting.
Jared Mason was the lead.
He was the lead. Yeah, he was in
Not the one with the fedora.
the one in the blue hoodie and the red shirt. Him and I were in humorous duet acting. We were partners for 2 years. We were very strong. In fact, we did a performance called Stars of the Valley for our humorous duet acting. And We went straight from there to shooting the roof scene. So some of us stayed up all night. We went straight into the next day shooting that. Plays I was in. I was in Dracula. I played Van Helsing. Marty Kramer played Dracula. Played a very. He was. That's right. You were the detective. That's right. Yeah, that was a good show. That's where I befriended Marty and kind of put him in this. I did all kinds of plays. I'm not a huge actor. I just do it. My acting training helped me work with actors. And there's another point I got to make too. There's not a lot of women in this film, if you notice. There's not a lot of women in the main character. That's because directing is a very intimate kind of thing. Like I was kind of intimidated by women in high school. Like it's the truth. I wasn't sure how to, because you gotta act it out. You gotta be like, do this. You gotta be vulnerable in front of them. That's just what it takes. And I didn't know how to approach anyone like that. So it was kind of like an introverted boys club. You don't want to do that. In this day and age, you got to have diversity in your palette, and especially in TV news, like markets, how they work, paying your dues in lower markets. Like you've got to have an enriched canvas of diversity. It's the standard that it is today. And what was the last question? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go out on a tangent.
How does it feel being back here 20 years later?
Oh, it's a trip. Yeah, I haven't seen it like this since 20 years, and this kind of projection like that, the HD projection. And there's things that I just totally forgot about, and it really kind of brought me back to like my teenage angst, cobbling that together in my bedroom at all hours of the night. So, anyone else? What's up, buddy?
What's your favorite film?
Germany, the list. I could go on and on. It's
Yeah, like three.
Maybe three. It's a tough question. It was a tough question. I'd say the top movies you'd want to watch are Citizen Kane, Vertigo, and Gangs of New York. Because Gangs of New York is a Disney film. They got money from Disney to make that film.
Wow.
Yeah, Disney threw down to make that movie. So that's an example of getting very explicit, adult content made from, big studios like that. So
We always do movie reviews on Wildcat Weekly too. He has like his own little segment of movie reviews.
yeah, and that helped. That was a big.
That a lot of people really took to heart.
Yeah, and that was a big marketing,
He's so
a big marketing thing for this film is that people would see that, our friends, and they word of mouth, and that's a synergy. Like that created word of mouth in the department for everyone else. So,
So what do you do now, and are you in contact with any of the people that help you?
I hustle here and there. You're going to work all kinds of jobs. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. I had a contract with the Tribune for about a year. I was hustling for them. That was really stressful. That made me want to get out of news media. I received an artist grant to make a film recently that got screened at the Art Institute. So I'm still making films. But like I said, you can't do this to be famous or to be rich. You got to do this because you really love it and you have something to say. Otherwise, you're going to be disappointed. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. You're going to work all kinds of jobs in your life. You can't let that get you down. It's like the Frank Sinatra song. I've been a pauper, a poet. That song. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you can't get discouraged. It's in creative minds they compare themselves all the time. What's up?
Well, I like directing this movie. Is there any inspirations that you had?
Directing, you mean?
Yeah, movie inspirations.
There's a lot of nods, but that's the thing. There's a lot of nods in this film to the Hollywood pictures because it's a mock studio film. It's full of cliches. And that was the point, to just kind of make a film that was like that. Like Raiders of the Lost Ark is kind of, obviously that's the main one.
Like a movie that you're trying to find make your own idea.
How do you mean?
You mean you don't really take inspiration from other movies?
Oh, you mean I guess I'm having a hard time understanding the question. Could you just
No, I mean that did you take any inspiration from other movies? You saw another movie, you would want to do the same one.
Oh yeah, man, I'm telling you, that's half the battle. The more you watch, like I said, once I got to school, I was focusing on watching films because once you expand your canvas, and the more you watch, the more tools you have in your toolbox to creatively tell your story if there's limitations. And this film is filled with all all kinds of nods to Hollywood films, like North by Northwest, Hitchcock. There's a lot of Hitchcockian techniques, or like they're at the checkpoint. Like it's just, I can go on and on. What's up?
What's your thoughts on movies made today to movies like 20 years ago? If like they're improving, whereas.
LT has told me that you guys are downsizing the showcase, and I think the reason why that is because of streaming. The industry has really shifted to online distribution, and I think this answers someone's question how this would do on Rotten Tomatoes. This is the kind of film you would find on Netflix. Netflix is they're like made for TV films. This is a TV film. This isn't a film. This was made very fast. So there's a lot of flaws, but it's all concerned about story. That's all I can say, really. What's up, kiddo?
Were you the camera operator, or did you have someone else do it?
That's kind of that's a fib I have to come clean about. Me and my friends were very good at lending credit to everyone else. Amongst the various misspellings in the credits, you'll find that there were a lot of rules that we just kind of were generous about and just said, we'll say you did that, but the majority of the time I was the one operating the camera. Yeah. So, what else? What's up, kiddo?
Now, do you want to focus more on the cinematography aspect of kind of production, or the directing aspect?
I've made most of my money in editing. I made very good money in editing. I found that the skills I learned in this department really paid off in the long run, job-wise. So that was my bread and butter. That was with editing. I don't make any money from directing, but I love to direct, and I have a background in theater, so my story prowls are in directing. So, but I tell you this: the best directors are the ones that start out as editors. So if you want to be a director, you want to fall back in editing.
Is it easier to kind of see what you want, how you want to put things, for editing to directing?
Yeah, big time. I didn't do any kind of storyboarding for this. We had a script, but it was all improvised when we were shooting it. So in my head, I knew how I was going to edit it. So I had a plan in my head how I was going to edit it. So I was setting up the cuts. And that's why there's so many inconsistencies too. As you'll notice if you watch it, you guys have seen it so many times. They're not stupid. They see the technical stuff. But it was made fast. And my skills as an editor kind of dictated how I directed it. So,
What do you think about Talladega Nights?
Talladega Nights?
Yeah.
Is that the
Ballad of Ricky Bobby.
the Will Ferrell movie? The Will Ferrell picture?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen it in such a long time. I don't know. Why? What makes you ask that question?
I watched it last week. I was just wondering.
What do you think about it?
I just really liked it. I'm not in film. I'm just in film club, so I don't know how to analyze it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And trust me.
It's just fun. I like it.
Yeah, and once you get to film school, they beat it out of you and they make you analyze everything that's in brain, and it just becomes work. So that's good. Hang on to that. You watch movies because you want to have fun doing it. You like a good story. That's precious. Okay, yeah, what's up, buddy?
What would be advice you would give for someone who would want to major in media or film to help them find that career really quickly?
Well, that's kind of a good question, and I think the strategy. There's a lot of people who graduated or in this film, who graduated from this department, who really kind of played that card to their advantage. Kevin Jeans, Eric Zuko, Jeff Wagner, all these people, and then they're in news media. They're different from what I'm doing, but what they did was they paid their dues in smaller markets. So they didn't say, "Oh, well, I'm going to go to New York and I'm going to be famous." They went to smaller towns, smaller markets, and they made names for themselves. They worked the way up through markets, and they made names for themselves. See, for me, I went straight to Chicago. So for me to get any kind of notability, I have to go from Chicago to New York and then back to Chicago because it's not a free market. Was it?
What are films you think are underrated but are really important?
Underrated and really important. Good question. Underrated and really important. Alan Rosani's Night and Fog, which is a documentary about the Holocaust. That's a very important film that needs to be watched. I think what else? Criterion. I'll get back to you. I'll circle back. Because like I said, that question this young man had too. just once you are exposed to so many films, there's so much more you could be watching. So, what else? G, has anything to say? Or?
Yeah, Nick, one of the things that always sticks out when I watch this is your efforts on reaction shots, sound, and sometimes the things we don't think about when we go into making a big production.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of ways you get away with some of the continuity issues because you shot everything so tight.
Yeah.
To where you have to watch it 25 times.
That's the
Traut and I to see it because everything is composed so well that your efforts of shooting things tight and reaction and especially like there's a lot of like humor in this and you kind of cross to like reaction shots of other characters, things like that.
Yeah.
Stuff that we kind of take for granted. But how did you get to that point where you're like, look, this is important. This is why I'm doing this.
I was watching so many movies alone in my room that I just kind of did things instinctually. Like for example, when Malcolm and Guy are meeting by the gym to escape, and Guy asks for the envelope back. There's like a moment where it's like really quiet, and Malcolm, like they cut back and forth, and Malcolm isn't sure if he wants to give up the value of the envelope to Guy, if it's the right thing to do. Like there's kind of like a quiet kind of like communication, and then there's like a lot of like Hitchcockian like POV shots that you'll see all like when they're on the roof. There's a lot of POV shots. That's very important. Is studying what the other subject is reacting to when they're acting. Dave Scheidecker, who was an English teacher here at Neuqua, used to tell me that when he's watching people in a scene acting, he's watching the person who's not talking and seeing how they're reacting, and that kind of stuck with me. So, and it's all about feeling. I knew the story front and back, so I knew how the characters reacted. So, anyone else? What's up, girl?
When writing stories, forgive me if this
No,
doesn't make
sorry.
sense.
No, sorry.
When writing stories for film, where's the line, when something's like a serious plot hole or it's just about suspending disbelief?
Suspending
It crosses over into like a story that needs to be fixed.
Good question. Good question. Because there's a lot of that, isn't there? Where it's just kind of like you're just not. It's kind of like a hyper real type of thing. Like the kids are in class, they're running around, and you're kind of into the story, but it's not a real thing that's happening. I don't know. I'm not really sure. That's a really good question. I'm kind of stumped, and I have to really think about that. I'll circle back to you about that, especially with movies. But I'm not sure. I have to think about that question. I got to give some thought.
You said this movie was fit into like the satire category. Is that what you specialize in?
How do you say that one more time?
You said this movie fit into the satire category. Is that what you specialize in?
I'm pretty funny, I'd say. I have training in that. And some of the movies I've made are pretty funny. But I've also made a lot of serious films too.
Going off of that, Mr. G said that it's very hard to be funny for long periods of time. So like, how exactly do you do that?
Try not to be. Yeah, rule of threes. If a joke is not funny after the third time, and just trying to be funny. This is something that at the Second City, a mentor, Ed Ferreira, who I knew in high school and then I later worked with in college, who was actually a really good mentor. He told me that like, you're very good, you're very talented, you have raw talent, but you can't always go for the joke. The humor is going to come out of honesty, the honesty of the situation. That's what you want to go for. Yeah, you don't always want to try and be funny. You want to, because the funniest things come out of real life situations, especially like sad situations. It's going to be really, really funny. And I think that's why this got second in drama, because it's not serious. It took it too seriously. It's a funny movie. It really is kind of comical.
Mm-hmm.
So.
What was it like taking classes at the Second City?
Back then, it was a lot more down home. It's kind of been commercialized to a point now. In college, I worked with Edie Bryant, who was I made her first film.
That's awesome.
In college, yeah.
Ready for this one? Chris Red, who was on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, I knew this
He
one.
was,
He
yeah,
was in my Media 1 class.
yeah, he was on, yeah, he was on SNL.
Hey.
Yeah.
He's
Not-
really
he's
cute
not a good
guy
student.
too.
Keith is in
Traut,
Traut, yeah. Yeah, they're like, there's a lot of names in this film. And that's the thing, like Keith and Ryan, they were there too. They were in my room giving me notes. They were working on props. Like they were, and Keith and Ryan and I made a film after we graduated, in which is a whole different film, which is really serious and really dark, and really silly. But they were. It was a collaborative effort. Like they really helped me kind of reach this goal.
There's two other different pieces that Nick made in his time here that I remember well, and I know Ms. Traut showed this to her walkout week class. You made a trailer for The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
That was phenomenal.
Which I recently just discovered.
To the Postal Service song,
Yeah.
and I don't think my production class has seen it. I'll love to dig it out and show it to you.
I found a copy of it recently that I posted online. I can give to you, but it's deteriorated. It's it doesn't look it's because it's off of a VHS transfer. So it's not,
You can understand like it kind of brings all of Nick's worlds together, the theater world with the visual world, and just understanding what works, and that was outstanding. And the other one was the Homecoming opening. Remember that he shot the in the Odd Lobby.
Yeah. The dancing cowboy.
The Western.
Dancing Cowboy one.
Yeah.
Okay, for a second I was thinking
Hilarious.
Candyland, but
Yeah.
that was Londi. That was our one. Yeah, oh my
We
god.
did two versions of that. We did.
Jeff Wagner was
Jeff
in
There's
that.
Wagner.
lots. Yeah, but
Ron
we
Willinger.
did a second one too, which only got shown. It was only been seen once that I recently uploaded. But yeah, that's some good material. Those were fun.
It stuck, and it was for like the Homecoming week edition of the show,
That
and
was
played
fun.
to the theme. But just understanding, bringing all these elements together and understanding what worked. Like you just had a really good eye for things.
Yeah, it's about creating pie. It's about in that Wizard of Oz show, I wasn't the lead. I was a very minor role, but the director approached me because she knew that I was having involved this department and asked if I would make a trailer, and that created word of mouth and synergy for everyone involved, so everyone benefited.
Well, hey, I know we told you 4:15. I know people have.
What time is it right now?
It's 4:20, but
Woo! I had my time here in 20 minutes, so I gotta.
but hey, let's give.
What's up?
Real quick, could you sign my ear?
Sure.
Wow.
I don't know how much
20 years later.
I don't know how much that's gonna be worth, but sure.
I've been.
Thanks everybody for
Thanks
coming.
everyone.
Thank you.
We don't decide.
Anyone's mine.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Good questions. Really good questions.
Thank
Oh,
you.
wow.
Thanks for coming.